friends, I wanted to give you a little tutorial on how I created these canvases. It's pretty simple, but it's a little time consuming because you have a lot of drying time in between. But it was really inspired by Stephanie Ackerman. I went to her website, and you go down into the homegrown blog and you scroll to 3 trees, and she really gave me a step-by-step instruction on some tools to use, some paints to use, and just inspiration by using music in it. So this was my inspiration from Stephanie. So we started off with both of these canvases with a blank canvas. I'm going to go through all the supplies I used. I used Mod Podge. I used Tim Holtz Distress Stain. This one's Walnut Stain. This is Gold. And this is the Broken China. I also used just cheap acrylic white paint to whitewash the background. I used an old Lutheran hymnal. That was my mom. She had a couple in her basement, and I just pulled out some Christmas hymns and Advent hymns. And the other supplies I used was just plain tissue paper. These were the backgrounds for each of the canvases. This snowflake one was the background to this, and this Merry Christmas, Peace, Joy, Love was the background to this Christmas tree one. I will put that aside. And then I also used some just construction scrapbook paper. For the one Christmas tree one, I picked 3 different greens for the trees, and I just hand cut them in triangles. And then I used a strip of just this glitzy strip, glitzy cardboard for the bottom. These was used for the trunks on both trees. And then for this one, I had picked out just 3 scrapbook papers again, just the coordinated colors for these 3 trees. And then I also used the brown for the trunks. So to start off with, you start off with a blank canvas, and I bought a 12-pack the day after Thanksgiving. It was on sale for $12.99. It was 10 plus 2 free, so they were like $1 a piece. So you can really shop for sales on those. Oh, and here's some embellishments that I also used. Here's some ribbon that I used on the tree one, and this little snowflake pack. I believe it was Recollections from Michaels. It was a full pack of different snowflake sizes. These little flowers were used for the top of this tree. And then this is a package of tea stain doilies that I used on the bottom of this and behind him on this. So those are the embellishments that I used. You can use whatever you have, and if you have stars, snowflakes, you can use any kind of embellishments you have. So in order to do the background, you start with a blank canvas, and I used a wider brush, and I just dipped it in Mod Podge, and I completely covered the canvas really well, including the edges. And I had cut a piece of tissue paper just enough to wrap over the edges. All the way around, I cut it down and smoothed it down onto the canvas. And when you're doing the edges, here's one that I've already done. When you're doing the edges, you kind of just do the paper, like, when you're wrapping a package. You just kind of fold over the edges, and then you kind of put the Mod Podge on top of that and really seal the edges. And then I also did a coating of Mod Podge, again, just applying it with a paintbrush, Mod Podge over the whole tissue paper. It kind of seals the paper. And you have to be a little careful with tissue paper because tissue paper is kind of delicate, and I did rip a couple little pieces, and I just doctored it up with some black Sharpie. So these were the backgrounds that I did for these 2 canvases. Now, as you can see, the tissue paper is a little different. This is without it being whitewashed. So in order to whitewash the background of the canvases, I took just some plain acrylic paint, put it on a paper plate, and added a lot of water to it. And I just washed it over the top of it until it was completely coated, just to give it just a whitewash background on both of these. I thought it just kind of, snowed it up. I think Stephanie actually used white gesso, which also does the same thing. So use the supplies you have. So after I put the white acrylic paint, and before I put the white acrylic paint, make sure your canvas is dry. You can use a heat tool to dry that gesso, but you don't want to be doing anything in between. You want to make sure your layers are completely dry. And now to add a little bit of antiquing to this, I use the Distress Stain. And I just dip it a little bit in the water, a little bit on here, you put it on a paper plate, and you kind of just go back and forth until you get the look you're looking for. And see how it kind of makes it a little darker, it kind of just antiques it a little bit. And after I kind of covered the whole thing, again, I let it dry before I continued on. I did the same thing with the snowflake one, but I also used some of the gold, Tim Holtz Gold Distress Stain. You can see how it's kind of yellow, and it kind of really gets a, really antique look to it. So now that's preparing your backgrounds to both of these. Then for the hem, I like to tear my edges so it gives it a little bit of worn look. And again, I went back to this Distress ink, this walnut stain, and you just add a little bit to the sides. I'll do a little bit right here. A little bit to the sides, and then you just kind of keep washing the whole thing until you get the color that you like. If you want a little bit darker, add a little bit more stain, and just work at it until you get the look you're looking for. And you can see how it's just making it a little bit darker. It kind of gives you that worn look. And if it got too dark, you can add a little bit more water, and just work your way down until you've completely covered your total hem. And I'm just going to keep working at this all the way around. I go around the edges. You can apply it directly from the bottle, but I find I have a little more control with a paintbrush and a little bit of water. And just keep working at it all the way around until you've got the whole edges covered, and then so you got the whole page covered. And all the way to the end. Okay, so now I don't have it completely dried yet, but before I would adhere it onto my canvas, or onto my canvas, I would completely cover this with with Mod Podge. And I also would paint Mod Podge on top of my canvas again. And I would glue that down, find out what design you're going to use. In this one, I used a little piece of red tissue paper behind it. Whatever design you're going to come up with. And then Mod Podge it completely on before I went to the next step, because it's kind of like the farthest background on this. Same with this one. It's the farthest behind. Like the trees are layered on top. Same with the little doily. Oh, I did forget. I did use some washi on here too. I didn't bring the washi tape out, but any holiday washi tape you can use. This one has joy and some snowflakes. This has just got like a checkered and a striped. So after you Mod Podge that on, again, let it dry. If you want to antique more of it, you can just keep adding. It's very forgiving, this stain. You can add water to it to really work its way around. So that's how I added the hem to it. Now for your decorations, I cut out some trees, and I just took the stain and I rubbed it along the edge. Let's just pretend that this is my tree. And I just took the stain and I rubbed it along the edge like this. And you can use your fingers if you want. Once I found the area that I wanted to, I glued with the Mod Podge. I put glue down on my canvas first, then I put this down, and then I put Mod Podge on top. So you have several layers of Mod Podge. And when I was doing the trees, I also, I glued them all at the same time. I put the tree down, I put Mod Podge, then I put this tree down, and then this tree down. And I didn't wait in between layers when I was adding this. This is just a little doily that I, again, stained with the Tim Holtz stain. All right, then after you have it all glued down and you let it dry, come back with your stains. I used some of this blue stain in there. You can see how there's a little bit of blue stain in here. I just took my finger and I rubbed it on the edges, rubbed it into the tree, rubbed it onto the edges of this just corrugated decorative. I rubbed it onto the ribbon that's there, and gesso, or I keep saying gesso, but I don't use gesso, I use Mod Podge. Put the Mod Podge on there, and then after it's completely dry, I wanted this sparkling of the snowflakes, and I used my acrylic paints, and I watered them down again a lot, and then I just flicked it with the paintbrush right on top until I liked what it looked like to get the snowflake drops on there. And if you see a spot that you don't like, just take a wet paper towel and maybe you got too big of a drop on there, you just wipe it off. Then I let it completely dry again, and I added my other embellishments. This one, again, I had this little embellishment. I used a little Mod Podge, glued it on the back, stuck it down. One of the snowflakes that was in here, that was one of the bigger ones, but there's several different sizes in here. Put Mod Podge on the back, glued it down, and that was it. That was the finished product, and it's very easy. It was a lot of fun. I plan on making more of them, so that's why I kind of did some canvases, but you can pick whatever tissue paper you want. You want, a checkerboard in the background. You want a plain gold in the background. You can, do Christmas trees. Whatever ideas you want to use to create your own canvas is just a way of sharing your talents with your family, and then kind of makes you want to sing some of the hymns when you bring it out. So I hope you found this informative, and I really enjoy this faith group that I got to be part of, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas.